Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Survivor Now's preseason coverage for season 50. We are back today to do another player analysis. My name's Josh, and I will be guiding our conversation today. And with me today is Ollie. How are you doing, Ollie?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited to come on here and talk about some Survivor 50 people. I was definitely kind of very on the fence when 50 first got announced and started, but I'm starting to warm to it. I'm starting to get more excited, shall we say.
Yes. I think that we all have our gripes about who could have been here, who was in contention and said no. We all have those gripes. But I think pretty much everybody can find at least a handful of people in this cast that we're really excited about. And including these six right here. I mean, for all of them except Aubrey, it's their first time that they've had the opportunity to return. And I would say most of them would be considered kind of like slam dunks. Like we knew that all of these people would be coming back at some point, and now is their opportunity. So yeah, last week we talked about the first six people like chronologically. So from Jenna through Coach, so the six people who debuted before Heroes versus Villains. Today we're closing out the pre-new era folks with everyone who debuted in the 30s. So Ollie, I mean, just before we get into it, like what do you think of this group of returning, like this group of seasons, like this era of Survivor and the returnees we're seeing here?
Firstly, the fact that we're only on part 2 of this and we're already finishing pre-40 is a bit mind-numbing for me, but I digress. This group of players, I mean, like you said, for the most part, most people's second time coming back, and people that definitely we wanted to see. Looking at kind of the 5 second time players, these are all people that people have been wanting. Do I think all of them were needed for this? No. But you've got a very good range of kind of characters and archetypes represented even just in these 6 players alone. So I think that's what's going to be like exciting to discuss for like this time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of wish that they had done something where they kind of like broke it up a little bit more by era so that it wasn't like 12 people from the new era. I kind of wish they had maybe done maybe like 6 from the new era and then 6 from these 30s and then 6 from the 20s, something more like that, so that it wasn't like so skewed recent. But
well, they had people they could
they
pick
sure did.
Abby.
They sure did. Yeah, but the funny thing about this era is, like I said earlier, like with 34 Game Changers being the last returnee season that wasn't like all winners, everybody from 35 on hasn't had an opportunity to return until now. So it makes so much sense that they're bringing some of these people back. And then for me personally, with this era, like most of the 30s, I actually didn't watch live. I was kind of on like Survivor hiatus during that point. Like, I graduated from college and at the end of 28, and I was just kind of like jaded with the show and like, busy or with real life, and just kind of like fell out of things. Came back for Game Changers, watched Healers, Hustlers, lost interest about halfway through, but then Winners at War brought me back, and then I've been here ever since. So a lot of this, I was not there for any of them other than Game Changers. I was not there for any of these seasons live, so it's all been pick for me catching up after the fact with that.
No, and I think that's completely fair. I mean, I feel like the 30s do have a reputation, and I don't necessarily think that's due to all of the players. I mean, there are a couple of very questionable players, but I think the reason the 30s has a bit of a weird one is because it was. I mean, when we did the season rankings, we kind of called this the age of advantages, like the age of the advantage, and it was so advantage heavy. It was so driven by trying to come up with a theme, trying to like that. It felt a lot, and I think that's kind of why people have always felt kind of a bit weird with the 30s. But that's not to say that the 30s are bad. Like we have had some amazing like people come out from the 30s. I mean, these 6 players are a part of that, and then there are so many other options as well that I'm sure we'll throw the names out. Actually, funny enough, Daryl in the chat saying the 30s were a really good era for Survivor. So,
Yeah.
We've got some love there.
Yeah. I think for me personally, I think distinguishing the early 30s versus the late 30s is like where I draw, where I kind of divide it. Because I mean, Game Changers ended up being pretty disappointing, but it had the potential. Like we were not that far, a couple moves away from like actually a pretty decent season. But I think for me, 35, the introduction of Final Four fire making, I think that really was a pretty bad stain on Survivor's like overall game and its overall legacy. And so when people, for me, talk about, complain about the new era, for me, I kind of like lump 35 on into this like kind of asterisk game, it is what it is. We've all, it's not any player's fault, whatever, but I think it's just like less of a pure game than it was. And that's like a pretty big deal to me. So I think so it's interesting. Yeah. That 35 to 39 is also like, kind of with all these new era folks. So for me, Aubrey is like the weird. I mean, let's go. We can get into these players right now, starting with Aubrey. Aubrey was the only one of this group who has played more than once. She is debuted in season 32, Ko Rong, where she kind of had an incredible story, like starting off as, an underdog, a little bit on the outs, not quite in her element. Went on to kind of run the show in the post-merge as part of this like underdog alliance that kind of brought things together. And despite the fact that she lost her two closest allies via medical evacuation, she still made it all the way to the end, won the Fire 4 final tiebreaker, because it was tied 2-2 vote, and so they still had fire. And she got tied a vote with her, won the fire making challenge, and then very controversially, probably one of the 2 or 3 most controversial jury decisions ever, she lost to Michelle. And we see Daryl here in the chat saying Aubrey should have won 32. A lot of people think that. Like, I have some friends that have watched a bunch of seasons like to catch up for 50, and they, even though that aired 10 years ago, they were like, oh yeah, Aubrey definitely should have won. So she had that reputation going into season 34, Game Changers, where she didn't get as big of an edit and was kind of like left out of some votes here and there, but still made it all the way to 5th place in a very competitive season with a lot of threats. She ultimately, I mean, in those finales with 6 people left, that 5th place boot is always just kind of like smashed in there. And so it's hard to give like a proper ending to the story with someone in her position, especially when she didn't win. But she was saying, I was listening to a preseason interview, that she was doing a lot in the game, which I believe. It just makes sense that, she shouldn't really get a whole lot in the edit. Then she comes back for season 38, with the only time that Survivor's brought back 4 returning players as like captains, sort of. And it's funny, she was on a winning tribe the whole time, because she kind of started off on losing tribes in each of her prior 2 seasons. Didn't go to tribal council at all until episode 5, where she, is split in a group of 5. It's 4 new players and just her, and she gets blindsided with an idol in her pocket, her very first challenge. And yes, major disadvantage. I would agree. I mean, I think that was the first time that the new players like really, really banded together and are like, no, this is our season. And I think it's the only time where it was like a mix of like new players and returning players, that there were no returning players in the finale. So Aubrey, pretty rough draw there. So she's in this weird spot with all the other ones where she debuted in the 30s, but she's kind of like with the first 6, and that she's played several times, and she's coming back for her 4th time. So Ollie, what can we expect from Aubrey this time?
I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, you kind of said this there. This is her 4th season. She's played over 100 days. I think it's like 111 days.
If you count the Edge of Extinction,
yeah. And kind of, she kind of has had a very in terms of her game. When you look at the kind of bones of her seasons. So if we look at it, she first played an all newbie season, obviously. Then it was a full returnee season, and then it was kind of like a little bit like kind of returnee, kind of newbie season. So like she's kind of had every iteration. Aubrey is such an interesting arc. Like like you said, she had such a strong first season. I have to admit, I am on the bandwagon of Michelle deserved her win. So sorry, Aubrey. That's not to say though she did bad, because she did such an amazing game. I mean,
She played a great game.
Yeah. When Aubrey came back for Game Changers, the reason she came back was she showed how strong an underdog can be. She really showed, like, this is why you don't let an underdog have their underdog story, because they will come back and flip it. Again, yes, she was a little bit under-edited. Yes, she kind of had hit or misses there. And then Edge of Extinction for me was almost kind of like her swan song. Like,
Yeah.
it just felt very much, okay, her time is done.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, when I first saw Aubrey on the cast, I was not the biggest fan of it. I was like, why Aubrey? I was like, didn't really see the merits in bringing her back. I will say, though, after talking to two of her besties in Kelly Wentworth and Lauren O'Connell from Edge of Extinction, I can understand why they've brought her back. There is something that she needs to prove. I do feel like she's going into this season needing to prove, because obviously we kind of saw what they were trying to do with Game Changers, and then Edge of Extinction happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's definitely got something to prove. I mean, she's coming in as, I would kind of say, the underdog / strategic archetype. Like, she's not coming in as like this physical threat. No shade. She's played 3 times and she's only won individual immunity once. I wouldn't necessarily say she's coming in as like a character archetype. Like, we're probably going to talk about a couple of those later on. I feel like she's coming in as kind of a strategic person. She's coming in to prove why she is a great player. So I think what she's going to come in and do is redeem herself from 38. She's got that baggage probably, and she needs to reverse it. She needs to prove that, yes, 38 happened, Edge of Extinction happened, but that's not going to define my legacy. I think there is a bit of that. Is 38 really how I'm going to end my Survivor experience? No. So that's what I kind of see for Aubrey at this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I'm really interested to see how she does, because we talked about this last week, but anyone who hasn't played in a very long time. So, I mean, granted, Aubrey's Edge of Extinction was 8 years ago. So no, 7 years ago. Aubrey's 7 years is different than like Jenna Lewis's like 22 years, yeah. But it's also a lot longer than like, Charlie and Q and Tiffany's like 2 years, or Kyle and Camilla and Joe's 1 year, or like Rizzo and Savannah's like last week, so it's a very and she's changed a lot. She's a lot, and it has happened in her life ever since she played. So I am always interested to see how that happens, especially because for her, she played 3 times, and I think she played in 2015, 2016, 2018. So it's 3 times in 4 years. That's a lot. Like you said, over 100 days, pretty prominent role in those seasons, even though she kind of like did worse each time. And I don't know, I think from what I understand, I think she had a pretty rough experience with the fans, especially after Edge of Extinction, because she was one of the people that voted for Chris Underwood to win, and people are like, oh, he got voted off on day 8, and how do you vote for someone like that to win? I think she got a lot more flack for that than some of the other jury members did, because she was on the other end of a bitter jury in season 32. So it was like, how could you do this? I remember listening to, she did some interview with Rob Cesarnino on RHAP like after she played last, and it was very like, I'm done, like you could tell she was just like fed up with a lot of the nonsense that she got from the fans and all that. So like, I really thought she was done forever. Like, most of the time, like, I don't believe people when they say they never want to play again, but she seemed done, like totally moved on.
Yeah. I think that was because of obviously how Edge of Extinction played out, and again, like you said, how the fans reacted, because it's called a spade. Some of the fandom are toxic little.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can understand why she was sat there being like, I need to go. But I think also what it probably was a little bit of burnout. Like you said, she played 3 times in 4 years.
Yeah,
Like mentally, that's going to be so exhausting.
for sure.
So I do think it's going to be interesting because now she has had however many years now.
Yeah, I think 7 years was
like yeah,
between Edge of
yeah.
Extinction
So
and this.
she now has 7 years, and bearing in mind she probably played 3 times within a 7-year period. She's now had 7 years where she's been able to chill, work on herself, and really just hone in on stuff. Daryl's in the chat saying she said it in with Rob Seat and T-Bird, and what made her want to play again. Also, Daryl made a very good point here. Aubrey is a really good strategist. 38 has lowered her threat level a lot, and it's been a decent amount of time since she's played.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you this question. Do you think how badly she did in 38 is kind of going to benefit her coming into 50?
I think absolutely, because I think that she's seen, like I said, she's not seen as one of the like OGs who, is maybe like has a target, like more old school, but also she's not seen as like one of these new era people who, oh, she's like super connected to everybody, like watch out for her. Like it doesn't seem, again, I'm like halfway through some of these like preseason interviews, and I so far it doesn't seem like anybody's really anti Aubrey, because she's like a really good middle ground. She's in with the 30s folks, but also this is her 4th time playing, so she has that experience. She knows what it's like to make it to the end and lose. She knows what it's like to get clipped right before the finale, right before the final 3. She knows what it's like to get blindsided pre-merge with an idol. Like not that many people have that, such a variety of experiences, and because she did like worse and worse each time, like who's looking at her as a huge threat? And when you have all these people like Charlie who almost won just like super recently, that's really top of mind, like Kyle who just did win, Joe who kind of like was a huge presence all season, Camilla who was like a sneaky threat. There's all these people who are like really recent, Genevieve, like all these people who are really recent that are going to be way more top of mind than her. So I think she's in a really good spot.
And the thing is, she's going to have people on her side that I think are going to be very powerful players. I mean, perfect example to bring up Sari. Yeah. I mean, her and Sari were very close in game changes. They were working together. So I do have this I feel like bigger players are maybe going to look at Aubrey. And I think also because of her personality, where she is a bit more subdued, she's not trying to be the loudest person in the room. She's not trying to be the loudest person in the room, but she's trying to make sure that her voice has a point. And I think that's where she really does well. She's going to let the big voices say their piece, and then she's going to come in and go, right, now I hear what you say, and I'm going to say it in this way that makes you go, oh, yeah. So I think that's definitely going to code to her benefit. And like you said, the lowering the threat level, I think is going to help her as well.
Yeah. I'm looking at her tribe. So she's on, we don't have a visual for this, but she's on the pink, purple, whatever you want to call it, tribe with Colby, Genevieve, Rizzo, Angelina, Q, Steph, and Kyle. And just looking at that tribe, like, people are going to be looking at Q because he's such a wild card. They're going to be looking at Rizzo because he's such an unknown quantity. They're going to be looking at Kyle because he just won. They're going to be looking at Genevieve because people are like, oh, she's like such a lethal player who is like super dangerous. I think that's kind of her reputation coming out. Like, I don't know. I feel like Aubrey and Aubrey, I'm thinking of all these people on her tribe, like she might be the one that has like the fewest eyes on her.
Yes.
Go at least to start the game out. And that's like a really good position for her because that's like the opposite of how she started off in in Game Changers and Edge of Extinction.
Yeah, I was going to say definitely an Edge of Extinction. I think that's going to be very refreshing for her because she's going to be able to kind of sit there, take everything in, observe, and then do what she needs to do. So I think just visually, she looks to be in a decent spot. So I think she's going to do well. I think she's we're calm with her.
Yeah. And the more we talk about this, the more I think I'm excited to watch Aubrey play because she was someone who, again, there was like other people from the third, like Sydney from her cast was like someone who was a late cut, and I've been dying to see Sydney play again for this whole time. So like I was a little bummed about that, but like the more we talk about her, I'm seeing like, okay, she's got a lot of potential. And
Mhm.
Aubrey, even though she's never been like the top person that I'm rooting for, she has been on the side that I've been rooting for. Well, you can't really.
Yeah.
She got clipped too early in Edge of Extinction, but I was heavily rooting for her side in both Ko-Rong and Game Changers, and she generally associates herself with people who I really like. And she, like, I remember after the merge in Game Changers, she was just like, "Yeah, Sari, I just want to be on her team. I want to be on her side.
Yeah.
Like wherever Sari goes, like I'm there." And I'm like, that I respect that. That's exactly what I would want for someone like Aubrey. So
Yeah.
I'm
I completely agree. She is definitely someone. She's always, even if she's not been, like I said, when the cast was first announced, I was very much like, she was one of the few females I was like, really, Aubrey?
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of like, okay, I can understand it. I
Yes.
can get behind it. And like you said, she is normally with other people I have rooted for, so I'm not going to be like, oh well.
Yes. Yeah, no, in Game Changers, like I think pretty much all the people who I was rooting for were kind of on like her side of after the merge. We're kind of like on her side of things. So I think she can do the same thing here, and she will associate with people who are fun to watch. So
just quick, this is just tea. Apparently Aubrey was an alternate for Amanda, which
I can't even get into how Amanda was like there, but cut or like had a scheduling. I can't let my mind go there.
scheduling conflict.
I can't.
I know what that scheduling conflict was called, and his name is Ozzy.
I can't even go there. But like I said, we enjoy the cast. We got to appreciate the cast that we have for what it is. So cool. So moving on from Aubrey, next up is Chrissy from season 35, Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, or I'm just going to call it HHH because it's too much of a mouthful. But Chrissy came in similar to Aubrey, had kind of like a rough beginning, was like kind of like struggling with like, being like really, overwhelmed, overstimulated, like not sure what to do, but then really came into her own, had not as quite as straightforward of a journey as Aubrey because she kind of got knocked down a few pegs after the merge, but kind of came into this majority alliance like towards the late stretch of the merge and really dominated, like won 4 individual immunity challenges, which is tied for the record for the most that a woman has ever won. And she was easily the oldest woman of the group that was done. I think she was 46 years old during HHH. And she won, I think it was 4 of the last 5 immunities. So she crushed it with that.
Yeah.
I think Chrissy, all these years later, is most known for being just completely robbed by the Final 4 fire making, because the way it was, Ben Driebergen from her season, he kind of like blew things up and totally, ostracized himself, was going to be voted off unanimously at the final 7, played an idol, so uses 1 vote to send someone home, then finds an idol again at the final 6, and then again at the final 5, which, whatever. But then he loses immunity at the final 4. He has it all there, but he puts the U upside down on the little puzzle. So that should have been it, right? Chrissy beat him in the challenge. She beat him fair and square. He's out, right? No, they introduced this stupid twist that, completely defeats the purpose of the game, and then Ben makes it there, and then he wins because he played this really like flashy game with all the idols and all that. And there were people in the jury who didn't like her for whatever reason. So it's not like she played some flawless game or anything like that.
Yeah.
But she beat Ben. She beat Ben fair and square. Like he should not have been in the final 3. Yeah. But he was. She loses 5-2 to 1 vote, and is still I think she still has that fire under her butt, like all these years later. Like that, how hosed she got by production still is keeping her going. And I mean, I haven't listened to her any of her preseason stuff yet, but I am not gonna be surprised if she is gonna be coming in here like ready to go.
Oh, I 100% think she's coming in ready to go. I mean, like you said, she won 4 individual immunity challenge, oldest woman to make that feat in such an elite group of women. She clearly is coming in as the challenge archetype, the challenge beast archetype. And even like at like her amazing like age, I think she's still going to come in and prove that she is a strong challenge competitor. Like you said, I think with everything that went down with healers versus heroes and hustlers and the fire making. Like, I think she is coming in for that redemption. She's coming in to be like, I want to prove that, you know, I can win on my merits and not just because someone can play 18 idols and get themselves to the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Daryl did say it in the chat, even if there wasn't fire making, like, he believes someone else would have won, which
Maybe.
I think, but I think if that had happened, I think it would have been more respectful.
For sure.
I think more people would have been fine with Chrissy being an amazing runner-up.
Yeah, if she had like lost a close vote to Devin or whatever, we would not be talking about this the way that we are.
No,
because the point is, whether it should have been Chrissy or Devin, whatever, they both got robbed. Ben should not have won. That's the point.
So I definitely think she's coming in with that fire. I am concerned though about how socially she is going to do, because I do think she's going to come in with that challenge reputation. But I mean, we see it in New Era Survivor, the older archetype, everyone always seems to look at. So I do worry in that sense of, are people just going to put Chrissy on the outer because, oh, well, you know, she's maybe not as like socially in tune with us. She's maybe not the youngest. She doesn't get all of our lingo. Like, that's where I worry with her. But that isn't something of her doing. I think it is just a generational issue, which I would put more blame on the younger people. But I still think she has the chance to change that. Daryl said it in the chat. Christy does need a better social game. I do think I agree with this. I think if she can come in and really plant herself socially and kind of get all of her ducks in a row, I think she will be okay. I think if she comes on and is like, I have to prove that I'm still the challenge beast, I think that's where also she could come awry. I think she needs to lay low to start with.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting point you're making about the social game with the generational divide, because she was one of the older. I'd have to look at the cast off the top of my head, but I think she was one of the older, if not the oldest, on HHH. But she still, like, at the end, like, her alliance where she was in lockstep with Ryan and Devin, they're both two guys who were half her age.
Yeah.
And one of them was more that, like, you know, California surfer bro. The other was more like, you know, the nerdy super van type. So she can hang with younger people regardless of, like, archetype. I think that, you know, there were some people, you know, that did not like her and that were not picking up what she was putting down as much, but she still has, like, you know, she made it work the whole way through. And I think that she's had quite a lot of experiences in life that I think, like, people will respect her a lot. Like, you know, she's written a book called Winning Conditions, which, like, you know, it's just how to turn your circumstances into, like, a winning condition. But I think a big thing that's happened to her since then is that she had she discovered that she had, like, a gene that was, like, could mean that she has breast cancer. So the BRCA gene. So she got you know, preventative, like, double mastectomy, which is, like, a huge deal, and has, like, gone through that, you know, huge change in her life. And I can't even imagine how much I feel like in HHH she was like a no nonsense, like, you know, player who, like, was super competent and confident. And I think maybe that's part of why people didn't receive her as well. Is like, wait, you're like this 40-something mom with, like, 3 kids and you're not, but she wasn't as, like, motherly and nurturing, I guess.
Yes.
But I think that now even more, she is going to be super, like, badass, take no nonsense, you know, just, like, so sure of herself and, like, who she is and what she's capable of. Because if that's what she went through last time, and she's coming in even more fired up, even more life experience that has just shown her that she can just, like, do what she wants, I guess. I don't know. I'm really excited to see how it turns out for her.
Actually, you know what? I think that's going to be such an amazing thing to see, because I think as well, she's gone through that, and she's such a strong, powerful woman that I think she's going to see maybe some of the new era players who try and kind of do this woe is me stuff, and she's going to sit there and kind of be like, okay, whatever, but not really just. And if she ends up being on the wrong side of a vote, she's not going to get deterred. And I think that's what's really going to help her. She's not going to sit there like boo-hooing, being like, "Oh my god, where is me? What can I do? Like, oh, I've been left out of the vote. Like, I must have some sympathy." She's gonna be like, "You did what you did. Great. I'm gonna see what I can do now because I have to."
Yeah.
Which I'm gonna love to see. I think I'm gonna enjoy that.
Yeah. So looking at her tribe, she's with the women on her tribe are Dee, Camilla, and Tiffany. All of whom are 20 to 25 years younger than she is. But I don't know. I think just looking at all three of them, I feel like that's a good draw for her. I think that all of them are gonna like respect how tough and badass and accomplished she is because they all are like really, driven and kind of cut from the same cloth in their own way. I don't know. I really hope that she vibes with them because I think that that feels like a good draw for her. And then the men on her tribe are Coach, Charlie, Mike, and Jonathan. How do we see this going for her on her tribe?
I think she has a good thing going on her tribe. I could see her and Charlie not getting along, and I think it is because they both have a similar story. That obviously who beat them, the audience, not me, the audience, sorry, Team Kenzie, thought that they deserved to win. And I think they're both going to approach it in very different ways. I think Chrissy is going to not hold on to it, whereas you're going to see Charlie hold on to it. And I could theorize that like maybe he goes to Chrissy and is like, we have the similar experience, we need to bond. And she's going to be like, yeah, cool. I don't feel the way you do. And I could see that. I could see something kind of not vibing there. But like you said, I think the women that are on her tribe, I think you will be able to see the bond there. I think you will see those women kind of bond really well and respect each other.
Yeah. I'm so curious to listen to all of their preseason content and just hear like how they're feeling about one another because she's with Coach and Mike, who are two of the people kind of more like in her age demographic. But I don't know. I'm just like looking at like what a group of like 4 women like on her tribe, Dee, Camilla, Tiffany, Chrissy. Like I think that they could really do some damage.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Chrissy is once again, she's like far enough removed from playing that she's not like it's going to be as crazy top of mind for everybody. I think that if she can like ingratiate herself socially in the beginning, which I think on her tribe she shouldn't have a problem doing. I think we can see a pretty deep run from Chrissy. I don't know if she's going to win necessarily, but I definitely think that she will make a deep run in this game.
Yeah.
Very cool. So super excited to see Chrissy again. After Chrissy, we have 3 people from David versus Goliath. So let's take them in placement order from best to worst. So Mike White is next. So Mike, I mean, this man needs no introduction, right? He is definitely, he was famous before going on Survivor David versus Goliath. Funny, he actually played The Amazing Race twice, as a semi-famous person already, like after having, directed movies like, The School of Rock and Nacho Libre and all that. But he, went on The Amazing Race twice, went on Survivor, played like a really, really good game that people I think have grown in appreciation for even more since David versus Goliath. And, the common story is that he could have won. He just kind of like backpedaled at the end and let Nick take the win, but he, played the better game. And I think people were ready to let him win. Since then, obviously he's gone on to create The White Lotus, which is like a wildly successful show. He's won at least 1 Emmy, if not multiple Emmys. 2 Emmys. And like people are really, really, really into that show. Like he's wildly successful with that. So it's almost surprising that he's here, because he is like a legit Survivor all-star. I don't think he's quite as much of a shoe-in as like Christian and Angelina were, but he is a legitimate all-star, a legitimately really good player who also is wildly successful in Hollywood and still wants to play.
Yeah.
So Ollie, what do you think we're seeing from Mike this season?
I'm very intrigued by Mike White. I mean, obviously, just going to the rumor mill that is online, he wasn't really in contention, and he kind of personally, I think either he phoned Jeff or Jeff phoned him and was literally, and he was like, I'd be more than happy to play again. Like, put me on and I'm on. And kind of Jeff was like, yep, that's fine, then we'll have Mike White. Do I think he was kind of brought on in a sense of clout? Yes, because obviously you have the White Lotus notoriety. So I definitely do think that like he was kind of brought on to get some different people onto watching the show. Because it's like, oh, the creator of the White Lotus was on Survivor. That's not to degrade his game. His game in David vs. Goliath was amazing. I mean, he proved why he is kind of like a really good reality TV contestant. Like,
oh yeah,
he's so good. I mean, he showed it on The Amazing Race as well. I mean, we saw his vulnerability on The Amazing Race, and then we saw his strategy on Survivor. He is definitely, obviously, the strategic archetype, kind of similar to Aubrey. But I'm not sure what we're going to see from Mike. I think a lot of people, I mean, everyone joked being like, oh, they're never going to vote out Mike White because they want a cameo spot on the White Lotus. But I do think people are going to sit there and go, this man is a really strong player and we need to get him out. And I do, from the trailer and just seeing little bits and pieces, I don't necessarily know if Mike has a strong fire in the game. I think it is kind of going to be that thing of if he does get voted out, he's not going to be like too mad about it.
Yeah.
Like he could go early.
His life is fine.
Yeah. Very that. He's like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. I'm so curious too, because he has not, I don't think he's had hasn't had his interview on RHAP yet, but I did listen to his interview with Sharon Tharp. And I don't know if it was just the interview, but I think it is more just his general vibe of being a little bit more, I don't know, you hear him talk and he kind of gives off like his general tone feels a little like IDGAF, you know, like he's just very, you know, I don't care, whatever. That you know, he's got a very distinct way of like talking and like, I don't know, his mannerisms and all that. So it was a weird experience listening to it, and I'm like, okay, clearly he wants to be there, right? And he clearly loves Survivor. You know, he famously has like given pointers to Jeff over the years about certain elements of the game. And he said, since David versus Goliath until then, like, oh yeah, whenever you're doing a returnee season, like hit me up, I'm down. So I believe him that he wants to be there and he's interested in playing again. But like, yeah, what does he have to prove? Like, what does he have to play for? Like, I don't think we're talking about like Aubrey, who, you know, is coming back and wants this redemption. Chrissy, who still has this fire in her from, you know, all of this, the way that she played last time. And like Mike, you know, I don't know. I don't know. His life is in such a different spot than it was. He was already rich and famous and successful last time. But right now he's like, at the height of his powers, if you will, in the Hollywood world. So I'm just, I'm sure it's like a fun break for him. And I see why the show wanted him back. But yeah, I don't know. I am unsure how much fight he's going to have in him.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest question mark for me with Mike this season. Where's the fire?
Yeah.
And how much of it is there? Because that's where I am with him at the moment. And I think if he doesn't have that much fire, I am kind of going to be not disappointed in him, but disappointed in the sense of there were so many other people, and this is no shade to Mike White, there were so many other people that were hungry to be on 50. And I could name like 4 people right like off the top of my head, being Jerry Manfi, Abby Marie Gomez, Jonathan Penner, Sean Rector, like Davey. Daryl's just said in the chat, like Davey was so hungry to get back on.
And like Davey, honestly, if they didn't already have 3 people from David versus Goliath, I bet they, you know, he could have, you know, he was like almost, yeah.
So I'm trying to understand his position at the moment. I think we need to see more like pre-50 press to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it can't be understated, like how good of a game he played in David versus Goliath. Like he was super fluid, always on the right side of the vote, and not just like some sort of throw on. Like people wanted to work with him, they trusted him. He had influence, he had sway. He was kind of like a deciding factor on a lot of key votes down the stretch. I guess he wasn't on the right side of every vote because the Goliaths did get blindsided a couple times after the merge. But he basically he was there the whole way, and it wasn't until the end, the final vote of the game at the final 5, that Allison, who's she was totally screwed, but it was just threw a vote on Mike. But it wasn't until then that I was watching this season, and I'm just like, nobody's talking about Mike at all. Like they're not pegging him as a threat, and he's not just some rando. Like people respect him, and he's like had a good game, and nobody called that out, drew attention to that really at all until the final 5. So I think he's capable of doing that sort of thing again. He's just interesting study.
I don't think he's going to have that luxury this season. I don't think he's going to come in and be able just to kind of coast a little bit. I feel like people eyes are going to be on him, I think that is partly because of the game he played the last time and who he just generally is.
Yes, for sure. I mean, he is on a tribe with Jonathan, Coach, Charlie, Chrissy, Tiffany, Camilla, and Dee. He's on that green tribe. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's. I mean, obviously he has a relationship already with Christian and Angelina, but I feel like anybody is people who I don't know. I don't think that there's any sort of person that stands out as someone he could or couldn't get along with, because I think a lot of people would be incentivized to get along well with him, and also people would be incentivized to go to the end with him, because it would be people are going to be like, oh, we're going to give this guy $1 million, like we're not going to do that. So, so he'd be a good person to bring to the end, either like as a shield because he's a threat, or because you can beat him in a jury vote.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I see him probably making a deep run again, but you don't?
No, I don't. I don't see a deep run in his future, unfortunately.
Why not?
It's a feeling. It very much is a feeling. I just feel like he is going to be someone that, from right now, other people are going to have a lot more heart, and I think people are going to notice that maybe he is not as hungry for it, and I think people are going to go, well, we are.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that would be one where you'd to add to your point, maybe he could be someone who they're like, oh, who's going to feel bad about voting off Mike White when someone, someone like Chrissy or, who's been waiting for this for a long time. I personally would feel bad about voting off someone like Chrissy or someone like, I don't know. Yeah. There's people I would feel bad about voting off, but I wouldn't really feel bad about voting Mike White off.
All I know is, if and when he gets voted off, or when he gets voted for, I'm waiting for at least one of the voting confessionals to be White Lotus related.
For sure.
I'm going to wait for someone to either be like, I didn't want to cameo in the White Lotus anyway, or he still consider me for the White Lotus. Something like that. We're going to see.
That's true. That is true. Oh, man. Cool. Well, either way, very interesting pick. I'm sure he's going to bring in a lot of people. I've gotten targeted with videos on social media of people who are like, okay, so I got into Survivor and watched Mike White's season, and it was so good. Da, da, da. And I'm like, oh man, there's a lot more where that came from. So, all right. So moving on from Mike White to his fellow Goliath and Angelina. Angelina was also on the Goliath tribe and had a very different journey than Mike. She was one of the more noteworthy, if not the most noteworthy, personalities of that season. Some of her iconic moments include starting a rice negotiation for Jeff and being like, oh, I took classes on how to negotiate and barter. And so these are all the things we need to offer to Jeff in order to get more rice. And she made a whole scene about that. She made a whole scene about how she had to climb this 100-foot ladder to find her idol. And then most famously, she really wanted a jacket because she was cold. She voted. She contributed to Natalie Cole getting voted off, and asked Natalie as she's going away, like, Natalie, can I have your jacket? And Natalie ignores her. The whole thing is just hilarious, and even when you know it's coming, the scene still hits like super hard. So she's a little bit of a delusional queen, as we say, from her first season. But she is also like a successful, like, entrepreneur, and, she's had 2 kids since playing last time. And I meant to say earlier, she made it all the way to the final 3, but she was a 0 vote finalist, which loved her so much. I do kind of understand how people didn't super respect her game. Not to say that she didn't have a game, but I understand how the jury didn't really, she was not, they were not picking up what she was putting down that whole game. So, but yes, made the final 3 nonetheless. And but yeah, she too has been through a lot since then, and this is the first time she's had the opportunity to come back, and she felt like a slam dunk pick to me. Ollie, what about you?
I love Angelina. Stating that right off the bat, Angelina is one of my favorite players. She is up there for me. I agree with you. She was definitely a slam dunk pick. I mean, you said it. She's one of the personality hires. She is there to bring an energy, bring a character, bring entertainment. I really, really hope we get a good season of her, because I think she is going to be someone that is going to be so fun to watch. Because I think when you do look at all the stuff she's done, she was kind of doing it to benefit people. And I mean, Daryl's just kind of said it. Angelina is able to influence people to do what she wants. And we did kind of see that during David versus Goliath. I think she is still going to be someone that is no nonsense. She's not going to let people kind of just push it, dismiss her or push her to the side. Yes, that can work against her, but as you said, she's grown a lot since the last time she's played. She's now a mother to 2 beautiful kids. And I think she has grown a lot more that I think we are going to be seeing. Yes, we're going to be seeing her character and her energy, but I do think we're going to see a fully realized player. We saw a character last season, but I do think we're going to see a player this season. And I'm just excited to see her. I'm so excited to see her go toe-to-toe with some of these men, because I already know that some of these men are going to come into 50 with big egos, and Angelina's going to be the one to be like, pop.
Yes. I think Angelina, I also love her a lot. She's one of the people, even though, like I said, the late 30s is not my favorite stretch of Survivor. I think she's definitely one of the standouts from that whole era, and I'm super excited that she's playing again. And yeah, I don't think you could do this season without her. She's a good mix of, like I said, she called her a bit of a delusional queen the first time, and we love that. I love that archetype. Yeah. But Angelina, unlike someone, another delusional queen favorite of mine is Courtney Merritt from Panama. Courtney was totally next level, and Courtney, I feel playing again, you don't want someone like Courtney Merritt to be self-aware, but Angelina, in real life, clearly is this competent, capable person who, she is very confident in her own abilities. And maybe, like I said, we saw in David versus Goliath how that doesn't land with people sometimes. But I think, 7 years older, lots of different life experiences since then. She knows how she played last time. She knows how it was received by other people. She knows how it was received by the audience. And I think she is going to be more self-aware, but I think that's okay, because I think she still has that kind of edgy, bold, not afraid to say what she's thinking, not afraid to get into confrontations with people. That sort of energy that we need, even if she's not going to be as delusional or whatever as she was last time.
But we know she has been more self-aware already, because she's brought a jacket this time.
Yes.
We already that's already, she's brought a jacket. We can see the self-awareness coming in. But I do think she is going to be more self-aware this season. And I think we are going to see that growth from her, which I'm very excited for. Yeah. I want her to do really well. I want to see her go deep.
Yeah. And honestly, I could see it, because last time she's not coming in as someone who, I've heard a couple people say in the preseason interviews, oh man, she's so well connected. She has a lot of friends. She's really good socially. they're threatened by her in that way. But I think that because she was a 0 vote finalist, I don't think that people are like, oh man, watch out for her as a player. We gotta get her before she gets us. I don't see that happening as much, like in a good way that's good for her. I think she's going to be underestimated as a player.
Yeah, I think the only thing that worries me a little bit with her is her starting tribe.
Yes,
I do see a lot of egos on that tribe.
For reference, she's on that pink purple tribe with Colby, Rizzo, Kyle, Q, Genevieve, Steph, Aubrey.
Yeah, and I could definitely see 4 of those egos not liking Angelina, and that's on them. And I will root against them. I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure people can figure out my personality and who those 4 people would be. But yeah, I could see her getting, like, having a few getting in the crossfire between a couple of them and it not going well. But I think it's going to stem from the fact that she's going to call out their BS and they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
And I think overall, if that happens, I do see the fandom being on her side.
Oh yeah,
because she's not going to let people just have their BS moments.
Oh yeah, yeah. The interesting thing is both the one. I mean, there's a lot of like preseason stuff of people saying like, oh, I'm feeling this. There's like everyone is talking about 23 different players, and you multiply that by whatever. So there's a million different like relationships there. But one that is standing out to me as top of mind is that both Colby and Angelina like kind of have their eyes on each other. Like somehow word got out that Colby was calling Angelina chaotic, and Angelina heard that, and of course she doesn't like that. And so Colby's like, doesn't want her around. Angelina doesn't want him around. So, and they're on the same tribe. So we'll see how that goes. I'm sure it'll be entertaining to say the very least.
Oh god, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Cool. And moving on from Angelina to the final David versus Goliath member in Christian. Christian was on the David tribe in David versus Goliath. And he was in some ways kind of painted as like your typical like nerdy underdog fan, but he kind of went on to totally new heights than other players in his archetype did, and that he was seen as like an extremely capable player, someone that they were very threatened by, and people like loved him. Everybody gravitated to him. Everybody flocked to like his charm and his charisma. And I think Angelina was saying in her preseason interviews that he's even though he's on the David tribe, like he is a Goliath. Because he's so smart, he is so capable, he's so charming and social and winsome. Like he's got a lot of things going for him. He had one idol played on him successfully. He played another idol on himself successfully before ultimately getting clipped in 7th place because everyone was like, there's just no way we can beat this guy. And he too is someone who was an absolute slam dunk. Like you knew that the next time they had a returning season, like there was no way they were not going to bring him back. Like Jeff loved him. The fans loved him. He's like, and the fans like still loved him. He's very engaged in the Survivor fan community, still regularly like comes on, like talks about the show, is very, very involved in the community. He was a slam dunk. We knew he was going to be there. So Ollie, what do we see happening with Christian this season?
I mean, Christian's an interesting one for me. Again, I'm not saying I'm not a fan of Christian. I understand the Christian hype. I'm just not on like the hype train. I understand it. I can get there, but I'm not like his biggest supporter. Not to discredit him at all, but on that same breath, I would have sat there, and if he didn't get on 50, I would have been like, really, Christian? Like, really? I think this season is maybe an interesting one. I think as long as he can get his footing in the first couple of episodes, or the first round of the game, shall we say, sorry, I think he's going to do okay. I think what let him down last time was his threat management. He really did not manage his threat level at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if he is able to kind of do that early on and maintain it, I think we could see a decent run from Christian. again, he's so well spoken. I can't remember which interview it was, but he literally laid out the 4 archetypes and the
Yes.
6,
Yeah.
like you like that alone. Any player would have had to have just watched that and been like, absolutely no. So I think if he comes in still very analytical, I think that could scare a lot of people. So I do think he has to really straight away manage himself and manage how he approaches people in this game. Because even though they are all returning seasons and understand who each other is, there's still a chance that he's going to be with people he doesn't fully know. He needs to get to know. And I think if he kind of if people go like that right at the start, I think that's where I'm going to be worried for him. But I think he still has the ability to do well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that he, like I said, I agree with you in that I was not necessarily someone who was like, like a huge fan the first time I watched. And in fact, the first time I watched, I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. But, and, wasn't super sad to see him get voted off. But as the time has gone on, the more I see like, none of his stuff is performative. And I can't say that about other people in his archetype, but none of his stuff is performative. He is like, everything that you see is like what you get. He's the real deal. He is extremely charming. And he's like, he's a good fan. He's a good fan with good takes who loves the show and has a lot to contribute to it and is always going to give a good soundbite. And yeah, I don't know. So he's someone who I've actually appreciated a lot more ever since his first airing because, yeah, just he is separated from like other people in his archetype. And yeah, even though sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was going to say he gives me like he is strategist. He is strategic archetype, but with like this undertone of like character.
Yes.
Like he has these undertones of like I am a character. Not in like who he is, but obviously like you said with the sound bites, knowing how to play in a confessional and knowing the right moment to make a very witty comeback.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're seeing here like they're in the endurance challenge. Christian and Alec are they're on the thing where they're standing on the perch and like holding the thing behind their head. It's a challenge we've seen since and they're up there for like 6 hours, which is never going to happen because they don't have the time for that. They make challenge they make challenges harder so that you can't last that long these days. But like that's the thing is that he's up there going head to head with like the Friday like challenge bro of the season, and Christian like beats him in this challenge. I think they're up there for 6 hours, and he's like monologuing about like all like filibustering about all this random stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. You see other people try to do it. Like this past season, Savannah tells Steven, like, hey, give us some space facts. And Steven starts to, but then even Jeff shuts it down. He's like, okay, that was fun, but we're moving on. And that challenge lasted like, I mean, it was a different challenge. But yeah, like people try to do what he does, but they can't. They can't like pull off people, not just anybody can do like what Christian does.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like you said, even though I I'm not someone who's like dying to for like him to come back, but also I get it and I respect it, and I think that you can't really do this sort of season without him. He was like the biggest slam dunk.
I do have a David versus Goliath question, only because we've got 3 people from that season.
Yes, yeah, go for it.
Which one do you think is going to probably go first out of the 3? And which one of them do you think could have been replaced?
I think Mike could have been replaced. Yeah. I get why he was beneficial for the show.
Yeah.
But I think he's not a slam dunk in the same way that Christian and Angelina were.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about earlier how Davey would have been, Davey's someone who like, you can listen to him like read the phone book and it would be entertaining because he's just like so charismatic. I met him at an event during season 47, I think. Yeah, he's like super charming and fun and like, and he's had close call with this. He was almost on the Traders as well. Like, I feel bad for the guy. Like, he deserves another shot. So yeah, I think Mike is the one who could have been replaced. Who's going to go the farthest of the 3 of them? I'm going to ask at the end of these 6 people who we think is going to go the farthest. But of these 3, I think I'm going to say Angelina, because as much as Christian is aware of managing his threat level, like, I don't know. I think his threat level kind of speaks for itself. And I think that people know that they can't like let him get too close to the end. When I think Angelina, people are going to underestimate a little bit more. So I think I see Angelina going the farthest out of the three of them. How about you?
No, I completely agree. Mike, I feel like is the easiest one. And I do think Angelina has the adaptability at this moment, just from preseason stuff. I feel like she has the adaptability to make it the furthest, because I think people are going to underestimate her the most. So she's kind of going to be able to slip through more so than the other two. But I could also make an argument for Christian. But my heart goes to Angelina. So.
Yeah. I mean, in a 26-day game, that's probably going to have at least one swap, and probably two people getting voted off every episode before the merge. Like, anything can happen. Like, you have no idea like what the sort of like random draw is going to be. But I do think that Christian's threat level will probably catch up to him. And yeah. So my guess is that Angelina goes the farthest out of the three of them. But yeah, Christian, I think he's on the Orange tribe with Joe, Ozzy, Rick, Jenna, Emily, Suri, and Savannah. And again, like, people are going to be looking at Savannah because she's an unknown quantity. Rick is more that like chaotic, like idol finding, like get rid of him. Joe and Ozzy would be seen as threats more, like from a challenge perspective. Suri as like we can't let her get far, and Jenna as more of a unknown quantity in that she hasn't like played in so long and isn't as connected. I don't know. Christian is absolutely a threat, but I don't see anybody on this tribe like looking at him first.
Yeah, I think him being kind of like a seventh placer as well, I think that's what's going to help him, because you've got kind of everyone else that kind of does have you could argue has a decent placement. Whereas I think that could kind of help him kind of go under the radar at the start. And then kind of see where we go from there. So I think he is in a good spot straight away, because I do think he's going to be able to kind of navigate a bit easier than others, I think, on his tribe.
Yeah, agreed. Well, either way, excited to see how things turn out for him. And good for these David versus Goliath folks. I mean, because that's the sort of thing, like if season 40 were like a regular returnee season, we could have seen like 5 or 6 of them come back. Like, just because, it was a good season in a sea of really bad seasons. And like, production loved it. The fan loves it. So I'm glad that all 3 of them are getting their shot. And I hope Davey gets a shot someday too. Cool. So last that we'll be talking about today is Rick Devens from season 38, Edge of Extinction. Rick is a really interesting case in that he has sort of already gotten his second chance, in that he played in the season with Edge of Extinction, where he gets voted off 4th before the merge, and then he wins the first Edge of Extinction challenge coming back at the merge, comes back, and is a little bit under the radar when he first comes back, but then wins a whole bunch of immunity challenges as well as finding a bunch of idols, and kind of becomes the big target, kind of like Ben Driebergen was the prior, in HHH, and that he's kind of ostracized himself and is being, pretty bombastic with his showings at Tribal Council, except it was a little more of a mix where he was like finding idols and winning immunity, even though he was on the wrong side of basically everything. I think there might have been 1 or 2 votes after the merge where he was like, on the right side of things, but he was pretty much socially on the outs the whole time. But because of that, the jury was eating it all up, especially because he was like the Edge representative. And I think that kind of validated their experience. Made it all the way to the final 4 after playing a bunch of idols, winning a bunch of immunities. And very famously, Chris Underwood, who comes back at the final 6, so wins a late game Edge of Extinction challenge, wins the final 4 immunity challenge, puts himself in fire against Rick Devens because Rick was clearly the person to beat, and then beats Rick, wins the game. And now every season we have to deal with like, is so-and-so going to put themselves in fire because Chris Underwood did that, because that was the only way to beat Rick Devens and win the whole game. So in some senses, Thank you, Rick Devens, for introducing the concept of, oh, you should have put yourself in fire to beat this person. And we have to deal
Yeah.
with every season. But yes, we have, but he's another one. Fan favorite, production favorite. Like Jeff loves the guy. He was the first On Fire co-host. He was going to come back in season 41 as like he was going to have some like shop or something where you could like go and like buy advantages from him or something like that. That was going to happen in season 41.
Hold on, I have not heard this lore.
Oh yeah, no, that was like when season 41 was going to happen, like before COVID. Like that was a plan that he was going to like, yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he was going to be some sort of like shopkeeper or something like that. And you go to him and like you can look it up and read about it, but I swear that was going to happen. But then I think it was Mike White actually who told Jeff like, but is it fun? Or am I mixing up that Mike White said that about? No, I think he said that to Jeff about the Rick Devens thing. Like, but is it fun? Because Mike White also shot down San Juan del Sur having Redemption Island, and instead they just had Exile Island.
That's true. We stand Mike White. Sorry.
Yeah, that would have been, I don't know. And Jeff has also gone on record being like, oh yeah, some of my ideas are we're gonna miss. But anyway, so Jeff loves him, production loves him, fans loved him. He was another one who was like, we knew that he was always going to be coming back at the first opportunity. So I don't think anybody's surprised to see Rick Devens here, even though he was apparently an alternate. But yeah, so Rick Devens, what do you think we're going to be seeing from Rick Devens this season, Ollie?
A lot. And I personally, I say this with love, from a character standpoint, I could meet him in real life and he could be great and we could have a lovely chat. Rick Devens, the player, the Survivor player, I'm not on the bandwagon. I don't think I've ever been on the bandwagon. I have not been, woo, Devens, like, no.
Mm-hmm.
It was never my cup of tea. Which is saying something because his personality is slightly extra. I do like to be a little bit extra. So you'd think that he is someone that I'd appreciate.
He is pretty, I think it's no surprise that he's polarizing. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are like, they find his shenanigans to be a little too much, but then obviously there's people who like eat up his shenanigans. So yeah, no surprise.
I think it's going to be tough because I do think he's going to kind of come in as a character. And I think with 50, I think there are so many different personalities, kind of vibes. Like, I feel like he is kind of, so bit of a backtrack. He did kind of play, when he played the first time, he was kind of playing like it was his second time, which I think very much worked out for him. And I feel like this season, it's kind of going to be the same. Like, he already knows what he's got to do. So I think he's going to get into that mentality faster. I just feel like he could come in with a bit of an air. Only because, he was the first On Fire host. He very much, everyone was like, oh, well, Rick's going to be on the season. Like, everyone assumed, like, when Rick was announced, everyone was like, duh. Like, no one was shocked. Like, I wasn't shocked that he was on the cast. So I think that could work against him. And I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, Daryl says in the chat that in interviews, he said that he's going to lay low at the start. I don't know if necessarily he's going to be able to do that. Yeah. Just looking at his personality, he's not going to be able to lay low. He's going to want to do stuff. He's going to want to be squirrely. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. But am I rooting for him? I'm so sorry, no. But you've got so many other people that are going to be rooting for you. I'm not rooting against him. Definitely not rooting against him. I'm just not that rooting. I'm just not rooting. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, he like I said, he's can be a little bit of a polarizing figure. I mean, he definitely brought a lot of splash to Edge of Extinction, and I think other than the 4 returnees, he was like easily the most standout personality and player there. So yeah, it's no surprise that we see him back. Yeah. I'm curious how it's gonna go though, because like he in the beginning of the new era, he was like so top of mind. I remember, even with Winners at War, like I think like a lot of people referenced him in their preseason stuff. So but now I think like with the hiatus with COVID and then all the new era, he's nowhere near as top of mind as he used to be. But he still is this like big presence that I think
Yes.
like you said, I don't know if I see him laying low, even though he said that he wants to. I just don't know if he does that, especially because he, more than anybody in this cast, I think, is like has a reputation of like the kind of like idol finding, like shenanigan causing presence. And I think that people may want to nip that in the bud. I don't see him going early, but I also don't know. It's just like it didn't really work out too well for him, even though he like made a deep run and was like really successful as far as the fans go and as far as production goes. Like in the game, he never really like got his footing. He needed a lot of those immunity wins and idols. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he can like ingratiate himself socially and like do really well in that sense this time. I don't know if I see it.
I do give him credit in the sense of like I think him knowing that he has to lay low is really good. I think what is going to work against him, which I don't think is necessarily his fault, is his reputation. I mean, it kind of is, but I think his reputation is going to precede himself. And I think people are already going to kind of have a preconceived notion, which could put him on the back foot. So I think if he does kind of go into the game and focus on building the relationships first, then he could do well. I just think if he does kind of let what everyone's perception is become a reality, I think that's going to hurt him, because it's like the perfect example is Tony on AU vs the World. Everyone had a preconceived idea of Tony. Tony tried to not do that, but everyone was sat there being like, he's going to be doing this, he's going to be doing this. And then in the end, Tony did that, and everyone went, there we go, bye. So I think if Devons can remain composed and kind of be like, no, I'm not playing the same way I did last time, then we could definitely see a different side of Devons.
Yeah. I agree. And again, he definitely is really hungry. Like we talked about with Chrissy and some of these other people, like he's really hungry for a shot at redemption and wants to win. Like I know that he's going to have that same fire in him, if not more, because he's been waiting for this for 7 years now. But yeah, well, how effective will it be? That's the thing that I'm unsure about. I think he'll probably make it, I don't know, at least like halfway or so, just because that's who he is. But I don't know if, I just don't know if people are gonna like let him get too far, or if he's gonna be able to like ingratiate himself like that.
Yes, no, I completely agree.
Yeah. So of these 6 people who we discussed tonight, Aubrey, Chrissy, Mike, Angelina, Christian, and Rick Devons, who do you see going the farthest out of those 6?
See, it's a difference for me because it's who I think and who I want. So I'll go with who I think. Who I think will make it the furthest and has the best shot at making it the furthest. I'm going to go with Aubrey. I do think Aubrey has the skill set and the potential to go far, especially with, I think, like I said at the start, how Edge of Extinction went, I think is going to be to her benefit in 50. So I do see that being her benefit in this season. So who I think is going to go who has the potential to go the furthest is Aubrey.
Okay.
Who I want, Angelina.
Yes. I was going to say Aubrey maybe as well, but I think for the sake of being different, I'm going to say Angelina. Because similarly, I think she's being, I think people respect her more, but I think that she still might be underestimated compared to like a lot of these other women in particular. I think that they're going to be looking at like the winners and then like the Suri or the Challenge Beast. I think that I don't think people are going to be like looking at her as much. I think going into the game, especially compared to the other women, her threat level is on the lower end. Yeah. So I think that is probably a mistake on other people's part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think I see Angelina going the farthest, but I also, I thought about saying Aubrey too until you said that. Of these six, who do you see going first?
Mike White. I think Mike White, and I think it's purely based on the fact of, like we said earlier, I think the fire, I think the hunger. I think everyone else has the ability to get further and have that hunger to want to go first. But I do feel like Mike, if people are kind of pushing his name, he's not gonna like. I could see him like not being as mad, and other people going, okay, then well, I'm not gonna risk my game for you.
Yeah.
So I would probably say Mike White. Sadly,
I agree. But if not Mike, I was gonna say Rick. Just because I just, socially strategic, he just didn't do as well last time, and I just don't know if he. And I think he's going to be coming in super hungry, and people know what he's capable of, and they see all of that. So I just don't know if he's going to gain the traction that he needs. So if not Mike, then Rick, I would say.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, cool. Well, we will see how it goes. This is a really interesting group to talk about because, like we said, there's for all of them, like waiting 7-8 years to play again it's like a pretty long hiatus. So I'm like really interested to see how all of them have changed and played again. I mean, and like for reference, I think it was 8 years for Chrissy. That's the difference between when Jerry and Colby played in Australia versus like Heroes versus Villains. So like that's a long time. So yeah, I think for all of them, I think there's a whole lot of life has happened. Like we're living in a different world than we were when they all last played. So
yeah,
at the very least, I'm excited to see what new things that they bring to the table this time. And it's not just going to be the same old for any of them, I don't think. Very cool. So we will be doing this again next week, talking about the first 6, again, chronologically, new era folks. So that would be Jonathan, Dee, Emily, Charlie, Q, Tiffany. We'll be talking about them again next week with a different panel of us sometime on Wednesday night next week. So stay tuned for that. Check out our social media below on Instagram and Blue Sky at Survivor Now Podcast, on TikTok and Twitter at Survivor Now Pod. We'll be posting all updates and announcements there, as well as some recaps of these conversations. So make sure you follow. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube page and tell other folks to check us out too, because we've got some good coverage here and we've got some more coming up before season 50, as well as a lot. Several different weekly shows that happen during season 50. So it'll be a really fun ride. And I'm excited to get into all of this leading up to the season and throughout the season. Ollie, thanks so much for hanging tonight. Anything you want to plug or point out?
I mean, we've got a lot of content coming up. We have got a current mini series called Torch Talk with Erin O'Marikins. She has got some amazing guests coming on talking about quite a lot of the biases that happen. We had an amazing discussion about race with Bruce and Wendell Holland, the winner of Ghost Island. And then on Friday, she's going to be airing episode 2, which is all about gender. And you maybe have got another Ghost Island representative joining her, and maybe even someone from 49 will be there for her.
Okay.
So that's going to be interesting. Plus, we've got obviously more 50 coverage content coming up and Survivor AU coverage coming up because we've got that season.
I cannot believe AU starts the same week as 50.
Literally.
I don't watch AU or cover AU, but thoughts and prayers to those who do, because that's just going to be a lot.
We need the thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
A lot going. a lot to come.
Oh man, but yeah, so be sure to check us out and follow along for all of it. As always, we appreciate you who tuned in live and chimed in during the comments. It's always fun to interact with you guys during these shows. But yes, that is all we got for tonight, and we will see you next time.